Go time, folks. It's good to see you guys here. You hear me all right, Dr. G? Welcome in.
I am. How are you this evening, my dear?
I'm doing great. Those of y'all that are tuning in right now, welcome to our live tonight. We are getting everything set up. Apparently, there's a lot of controversy going on. I don't know if you heard about this whole thing about Cracker Barrel. Just keeps I'm trying to go live, and everybody's talking about Cracker Barrel.
Were
It's their
they?
logo.
I saw they changed their logo. They took everything away, including the cracker, the barrel, and like Food Family Fun or whatever was on the logo. It's just now Cracker Barrel.
I gave up on Cracker Barrel a while back when their service really wasn't all that good. So,
yeah, I can make their hash brown casserole anyway. So, and we don't have it
that's
up here in
right.
Alaska. We have a very few selected fast foods up here, and
And I prefer Waffle House. So,
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not sure
absolutely.
what the basis behind all the controversy is, but I don't know.
I don't know either. Well, everybody that's coming in, welcome in tonight. Welcome with me and Dr. G. Charlene, our other guest, is going to be on here a little bit. We're talking a little bit about metabolic health and the Feel Great system and trying to help people get healthy that are wanting to do that and be on that journey. So if you're coming in and you were invited by somebody, we are excited that you're here tonight as we begin our conversation and we try to help people on this journey. And ultimately, we're going to talk about that because you know what? Health matters. And it's amazing to me that in the course of events, we have problems. And every time we look around, the state fairs going on here in Alaska. And the crazy thing is, I mean, there are so many people walking around that are sick and obviously sick. Having a hard time getting around that are struggling to just make it every single day. And I see it all the time as a pastor for 30 years, sitting with members of my congregation, those that were facing heart disease, those that were facing cancers, those that were facing diabetes, and the amputations that came with that. It broke my heart. And, just this last month, we got the statistics that 1 in 3 teenagers are now pre-diabetic. And it doesn't seem to be concerning, particularly for the church. Now, for me as a pastor, that hurts. That really hurts. But I want to do something about it. And I know that we can do something about it. And so that's kind of what's brought us here together. Dr. G, you've seen similar things yourself.
Yes, I did in the dental chair. And I am eager to share with everyone tonight the correlation between dentistry and metabolic health. We don't often think about that. We don't think about our teeth and our gums and dental issues as part of being a metabolic issue and how it can contribute to it. And I'm eager to talk about that tonight. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's jump right into this. So, many of y'all know us. We're on Facebook, so this is typically friends and people that know Dr. G and me. And I've been a pastor for 30 years. I already kind of put that out there. But when I started this journey, I think I'm probably a good time. Let me change our screen up here a little bit so people can see. I don't know that everybody has seen what happened to me and Dr. G in our journey, which is pretty striking. And we were both diagnosed with diabetes within a month of each other. And for both of us, that was a pretty hard hit. And trying to come to deal with it. But, we were there. We were sick. We were overweight. We were dealing with our own different set of issues. For me, I became a nutrition coach because what I did healed. And I've seen so many other people that have gone through this transformation. And I got to be firsthand watching you go through this, Lauren, and that was inspiring to me.
Yeah, because I was diagnosed in January 2024 with prediabetes, but it started long before that. And I didn't realize it because now that I know. But then about 10 or 15 years prior, I was diagnosed with lots of things. Things started happening. First was hypertension. I had high blood pressure, and I thought, oh yeah, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to let that go. I'm gonna get it controlled with diet and exercise. And I was also diagnosed with high cholesterol. They wanted to put me on a statin. And I said no. And then at the same time, probably within 2 years of those diagnoses, I had then I was diagnosed with dermoid cysts. I had fibroids, and then I also developed papillary carcinoma of the thyroid gland, to which led to me having a complete thyroidectomy. So my thyroid was completely removed, which led to a whole other complication of issues. I was also diagnosed with fibromyalgia. It just went on and on and on. And I attributed all this to getting older, just like we all do. We all give it a reason, right? My dad had it. My mom had this. My grandmother had this. I'm getting older, so this is how it's supposed to be. And I also saw something in the dental chair that basically I knew that medication wasn't the answer. And it spirals from there, from 1 to 2 to 10 to 15 to 27. And, it sounds unreasonable. It sounds like that didn't happen, but there are people who are on several medications for chronic illness that we're going to be talking about today. And you don't have to be.
Right. That's exactly right. So let's delve into this. So, that's been our journey, and we have a problem, and it's not just us. You saw our picture. We did have a problem, and we don't anymore. And we've been able to manage that, and we've been able to help others. But here's what a lot of people don't know. And that is 93% of us as Americans are not metabolically healthy. And ultimately what that equates to is when you're driving down the road today and you pass 10 cars, that means that 9 out of the drivers of those 10 cars are sick. Just put that into perspective. That's a lot of people that are dealing with different things. And it's not just diabetes. It's not just the cancers. It's not just the big C's. It's the other little things that are there. But trying to help people make the identification as to what they are can be a challenge. And what metabolic syndrome is something you know a good bit about, Dr. G. Can you kind of unpack that a little bit more for us?
Sure. So metabolic syndrome, it is characterized, it's measurable, first of all. It's characterized by having 3 or more of the following of these when they're out of range. These values, these lab values, out of range. You have high triglycerides, you have high blood pressure, you have a high fasting blood glucose or high fasting blood sugar, or a low HDL, that good cholesterol, that's low. The other thing that is probably most, something that people see the most is probably the large waist circumference. And what that means is if your waist is larger, your waist circumference is larger than half your height. So that picture that Ken showed of me, I am 5'1" tall, so 61 inches tall. I guarantee you my waist was larger than 30.5 inches in that picture. So what does that look like? In men, it's greater than 40 inches and greater than 35 inches in women. So if you have 1 or more of the following of those values, if you have 3 or more of the following of those values, or you have to medicate to keep them in range, you are metabolically unhealthy. Now, those are signs. And the next, go ahead and advance to the next slide, Ken.
Yeah.
These, and why is that important? Because those signs can lead to these symptoms. And you may not, like I said, when I started getting diagnosed with all these things, I didn't think much of it. I thought I'm just getting older. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I gave it, we always give it a reason, right? Well, those signs, when that's happening, can lead to these symptoms. And it could start simply as blurry vision, or you have a change in your eyesight and you have your glasses that need to be adjusted. And then your blood sugar, of course, is high. You have increased thirst or hunger. You can never seem to get enough something salty or something sweet. You're always craving it. Dark patches of skin, that's not something you can rub off. Also, you notice skin tags or psoriasis or eczema or acne even. The tingling in your hands and feet for no reason. That's the beginning stages of neuropathy. Chronic overall pain, like I had an autoimmune disease of fibromyalgia. I had chronic pain constantly. And then you're always tired because you're dealing with all these things. You're constantly fatigued.
Yeah, and people don't realize how that's impacting us. And when we think about it, there is this whole list of things beyond that. All right, things like, and these may be familiar, and if it's not just you, then Think about who do you know that has type 2 diabetes, that you know somebody that's had a stroke, that's dealing with heart disease, obesity, overweight, migraines. People really don't understand that. I suffered with them for 20 years. Dementia, periodontal disease, childhood obesity, PCOS. That's the leading reason why women cannot get pregnant. All right. All right. That's huge. Fatty liver disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's. Guys, erectile dysfunction, sarcopenia, that breaking down of our muscles, and that blood pressure. And, the fact of the matter is, in our current approach to things, we have an approach that is a pill for every ill. Now, this isn't, Dr. G is a prescribing doctor, right? And that's huge. This isn't something that we take for granted. We're anti-medication, but it's also realizing that our current pathophysiology is this idea that we just give a pill for every single one of these conditions.
Yep.
But the reality is there is a root cause. Well, let's say there's debate about this, but it's one that says, hey, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as we say down south. And I think that's important because there's a whole group of doctors that have posited there's a different approach to this, starting with Dr. Joseph Kraft in 1975, who was the chair. This is the chair of the Department of Clinical Pathology and Nuclear Medicine in St. Joseph's Hospital. He was there for 30 years. Distinguished researcher and doctor who, in looking at heart disease and looking at diabetes, made the connection and developed the Kraft test, which is what helped people to understand that, guess what? If you have been diagnosed with heart disease, but haven't been diagnosed with diabetes, you just haven't been diagnosed yet. Now, he wrote the book, Diabetes Epidemic in You. And then along with that, now he's gone, he's passed on, but Dr. Ben Bickman out of Brigham Young University has turned right around and continued that research. And you can see by the amount of publications, very highly published and decorated metabolic scientist, and has addressed this very same thing, that ultimately there is a root cause, which is insulin resistance. Now, I think we've got our guest, Charlene, coming on here. Let me see if I can pull her on board. I think she's gotten off work, and let's see if we can, which is perfect timing. Hello, Charlene.
Perfect timing. Hey there, girl. Good to see you.
Awesome. So as we come into this, we were just talking about this, that whole idea of pill for every ill. As a pharmacist, you've seen that. But there's more to it. There's more to it than that. And that is, we are dealing with this whole issue of insulin resistance. So let me zoom back out again so you can see the screen. So in a normal person, over on the left side, you see insulin is working just fine. It is an anabolic hormone. It unlocks the cells so the sugars and the glucose can get into our cells. And then that enters into our bloodstream so our brains and our livers and our muscles can all use it effectively. But when we are insulin resistant, and we're going to talk about how we get to this place, insulin no longer can bind to the cells and unlock the cells so that the glucose can enter in, because the cells are already full. And when that's the case, the glucose and the insulin simply are free flowing into our bloodstream. So basically we have a bottleneck, if you will. There's so much of it, it can't be used. It's stored as fat because that's the only place it can go now. And ultimately, our brains can't get the energy. Our livers can't get the energy. Our muscles can't get the energy. And it simply stays in our bloodstreams. It attaches to the walls of the blood, our veins and our arteries. It's thickening them. It's causing growth in places and inflammation that we shouldn't have it at all. And that's leading to this problem. But it's one thing to talk about this, and it's like, okay, but numbers don't lie. And there's actually some ways, besides looking at metabolic syndrome, which is connected to insulin resistance. Dr. G, can you unpack this for us a little bit more? How we can make a determination with our blood work?
Yes. So easy way to find out if you're insulin resistant. Basically, take your most recent lipid panel, look at your triglyceride number, and you want to divide it by your HDL number of your HDL. So if that is less than 2, less than 1 is better, you are insulin sensitive. If it is greater than 2, you're insulin resistant. And that's when you're going to start seeing migraines, maybe some acid reflux, maybe some acne, psoriasis, some skin tags, things that are just kind of your body's warning you. And if it's over 3, then you are highly insulin resistant. Then you're probably leading, if you haven't been diagnosed with any of those plagues of prosperity, like diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, uh, PCOS, erectile dysfunction, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, any of those things, you probably just haven't been diagnosed yet.
Right, just like Dr. Kraft was saying.
Yep.
Right. Charlene, are you with us right now?
You're not on.
So, oh, there she is. Is your audio on? Let me make sure.
No. Turn it up all the way, maybe.
Should be good there. Hold on. I see camera. Yeah, I don't get any audio. Because this is the point. This is right where it's timing for Charlene. I'm gonna let me turn off and on, and let's see if that does it. Not sure what's happening there. Yeah, I think the audio is over on Charlene's side. So we're talking a little bit about this area right here. That's an important part of this. I'm going to switch over here. We'll see if we can get Charlene on.
I think she's back. Yeah, I think it's audio on your end, Charlene. If you can hear us, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can't hear anything. I'm not sure what's happening. Are you on your car? Is it on Bluetooth? Saying no. Because we can't hear anything and there's nothing. I don't even get that there's a signal coming through. So. Well, Dr. G, will you go ahead and take this right here? Because you've seen some of this. Actually, this is kind of Charlene's area, but you've seen this with statin medications, this whole issues with medications and what's been playing out.
Yes.
So,
statin medications are the #1 prescribed medication for high cholesterol, heart disease. But what is the number one cause of death in the United States? It's heart disease. So something's not right. Something's not right. So when I would, what I saw in the dental chair is I saw when patients would come in the office, I saw a massive increase in statin medications. And not only did I see the increase in statin medications in my patients, but I also saw the increase in the age of the patient. In other words, they were being prescribed more and more to a younger generation of patients. And I was not able to figure that out. I thought it was very interesting that I saw that. Well, it turns out back in, I believe, was it 2012, the guidelines changed. There were new guidelines that they said adults anywhere from the age of 40 to 75 years of age with an LDL cholesterol from 70 to 189 and without diabetes and without any cardiovascular risk, they were going to put them on a statin as a precautionary measure. That's what that means. And so that's why about 10 to 15 years ago, I saw an increase in statin medications in my patients, but it was at a younger age group. But you have to ask yourself, if statin medications are the #1 prescribed medication for heart disease and cholesterol and lowering cholesterol, why is heart disease still the #1 cause of death in the country?
Right. And here we go. So as the #1 medication, though, here's the thing. It seems like there's some issues that are taking place. And can you kind of unpack these a little bit more? And I want to draw something, and this is really important. I think I just want to draw people's attention down to the lower section right on here. No one's making this stuff up. What we're doing is we're simply looking at the PDR.net, which is something we're going to talk about later. But as a provider, this is what your doctor's looking at. This is Dr. G. This is what you're looking at when you prescribe medication. These are the things that this does. These medications, these are legitimate side effects. that are impacting our lives.
Yes. So one of the things that statins do is they disrupt insulin signaling. So they cause you to become insulin resistant, and this raises your blood sugar. And also they impair the mitochondria. So the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, is unable to do its job. It's unable to function utilizing that sugar as energy, or that glucose as energy to power the cell. So that's why you are constantly tired. You're constantly fatigued. Statins can also disrupt your hormones, and they can cause muscle pain over time.
Right, right. So that's the number one medicine that is prescribed. But the next one is the number one medication for pre-diabetes and diabetics. If you're a pre-diabetic, you're diabetes, you're likely on this medication,
Yes,
metformin.
absolutely. It is the number one medication prescribed for when you get that diagnosis as prediabetes. That's like the first line of defense. And it has also some side effects. It can suppress your thyroid, so it doesn't work as well. So then you start to gain weight. Your thyroid is your metabolic regulator, basically. And what your thyroid gland does is it helps you with your metabolism. And so if that's suppressed, then you start gaining weight, things start happening, your cravings begin to increase, and your microbiome is disrupted. Your gut microbiome is disrupted. When that's disrupted, then you start getting things like leaky gut. You can start having acid reflux. You can then stem into GERD. One of the other big things with metformin is it depletes vitamin B12, and vitamin B12 is important because it helps with nerve tissue. And if that is depleted, then it could lead to neuropathy, that tingling of your hands and your feet that we were talking about earlier. And the cycle.
And that's what, right. And that's what I saw as a pastor, because that's the precursor to needing to have amputation. And that's when those extremities stop working.
Yep.
And here in Alaska, we see that far more than we even like to talk about. And when the thing that struck me when we've traveled to Europe is the amount of people that, we think about here, but in Europe, the amount of people and those that are homeless that have been amputations is just everywhere. It's heartbreaking what happens. But now there's a whole nother class of medications that are incredibly popular as we talk about this. And this is going to be important to remember the term GLP-1. We're going to unpack this a little bit more.
Yep.
But these are a class of medications that are really popular right now.
Yes, they are. These GLP-1 agonists originally were prescribed for diabetics. And what they do is they help suppress your appetite. What they do is they are a synthetic GLP-1. And like with all the other medications, they come with side effects. And one of the big ones is gastroparesis, medullary thyroid cancer, sarcopenia. That's basically your muscles are depleting, osteopenia, your bones are getting brittle. And you are familiar with this one, Ken. It's ischemic optic neuropathy. However, you did not get this. You did not have this neuropathy from a GLP-1. Correct?
Right. No, but it does reinforce what we talked about when it comes to insulin resistance, because I got it because it's a stroke in the optic nerve, and that comes from heart disease. That's where I refined mine, was because a heart disease caused that stroke in the optic nerve. So that's been a huge part of this journey. Now, unpack that. This is the fascinating part. Those of y'all that don't realize this one. So we've talked about some of those medications, but they presented themselves for you in some specific ways.
Yes, they did. So Pharmaloop, let's talk about exactly what a Pharmaloop is. So a Pharmaloop is when you are prescribed one medication and it comes with some type of side effect, and you develop a symptom from that side effect, and they medicate you for that symptom with another medication. You then develop another side effect that needs some type of medication to counteract that symptom. So what does that look like? Let's start with at the very top with high cholesterol. I was diagnosed with high cholesterol way back when, and that is one of the most common diagnoses because statin medication is most commonly prescribed medication. So we'll start there. So you're put on a statin, and then all of a sudden, a couple months later, maybe a year later, you are then diagnosed with prediabetes. Remember, statins are they cause insulin resistance. So
Right.
therefore, you are leading into prediabetes. They give you metformin, the other medication that's prescribed most often, right? And then sometime later, probably within the next several months, my patients would come in and I would do a checkup on them, and they would have 3 or 4 more medications. And they would say, well, I had high cholesterol, I'm pre-diabetic, I have high blood pressure, so I'm taking lisinopril and hydrochlorothiazide, that's HCTZ. I have developed neuropathy because my hands and my feet, they tingle a lot, so they put me on gabapentin. And then, you know what? I started developing all these things with my gut. I started having indigestion so bad. And they said, no, you have GERD. So they put me on esomeprazole or omeprazole, okay? And this continued. And about another 6 months go by, and then I see them for their other checkup. They're getting their teeth cleaned. How are things going? Well, not only are they on all those medications, but go ahead and add to it depression because they started gaining weight and they fell into a state of depression. But then also there was times of anxiety. So they put them on Zoloft or Prozac or Paxil or Lexapro, one of those SSRIs. And then they found themselves in the ER one day because they had a cardiac arrhythmia. Their heart fluttered. They didn't know what that was. They thought it was maybe a stress or an anxiety attack. And it turns out they have a cardiac arrhythmia. And then they were also diagnosed at that time. They were a full type 2 diabetic. So because their metformin that they've already taken was not working, they put them on Ozempic. That's one of the GLP-1 agonists. Well, how did this all happen? Well, remember the statin causes insulin resistance. Well, so does that acid reflux medicine, esomeprazole and omeprazole. So when you have both of them going on at the same time, you double your chances of developing type 2 diabetes as a side effect. I don't think I can hear you, Ken.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Now I can. I'm not sure what happened.
Okay. Yeah. So
I don't
it's just
think, I don't
me.
think anyone could hear you.
Right. So I'll hear. So what I was saying was in the way this works, it doesn't have to be this loop exactly. For me, I had the acid reflux and then the depression. And later I got metropolol. I did the gabapentin, metformin, that didn't hit me. And then I was type 2 diabetes because the GERD caused in part my type 2 diabetes. So
Right, exactly. So this pharma loop doesn't have to happen in this order. And this is only one pharma. This is one example of a pharma loop. One of the reasons also that I wanted to discuss why this cardiac arrhythmia occurred is because what they probably failed to tell you with your statin medication, you can become depleted in CoQ10, which is necessary for cardiac health and a cardiac rhythm. So if you're taking a statin and you're not supplementing with CoQ10, then you're going to probably develop an arrhythmia, something to that effect. And they're going to put you on metoprolol, which is it's a beta blocker. It's another medication for hypertension or high blood pressure. So now you're taking 2 or 3 medications for high blood pressure. And it's all because you started with that statin medication. And I started with the high blood pressure medication. And it went into metformin as well. And they wanted to put me on all the other things. So like Ken was saying, this pharma loop doesn't have to start with that. It can start with anything else.
right. Now let's talk about this because this is now really your field because this is what you saw in the chair, but you saw some other things as a dentist. I mean, it was totally different and people need to realize this.
So one of the things I like to say is your mouth is the window to your metabolic health. Why? Well, we eat. And when we eat and consume our food, that's where the digestion begins in the mouth. So I saw a big correlation between periodontal disease, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, and diabetes. And there was a study done back in 2017 that actually came out, and they were saying that there is a direct link between the bacteria that's found in periodontal disease, was also found in the brain tissue of Alzheimer's disease patients or dementia patients, in heart disease, those patients with heart disease, and those patients who had diabetes.
So that is crazy. That is absolutely insane.
Yep. Well, I can tell you why. So one of the reasons that this happens is that periodontal disease is a bacterial infection. And when you have diabetes, you are immunocompromised. And so you are, let's just talk about the diabetes part of it. You're immunocompromised. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. Let's see what's.
Okay. With
So,
that one,
yep.
or you want me to go there?
No, you can go to that other one before.
Okay.
And so when you are immunocompromised with diabetes, you are more susceptible to infections. Well, periodontal disease is a bacterial infection. So with periodontal disease, it can affect your insulin sensitivity. You become insulin resistant because of the inflammation. And what happens then is not only are you more susceptible to diabetes, but you also are more susceptible to heart disease and dementia and other plagues of prosperity. And I'll show you how this works. The next slide's going to go into detail. So basically, when we eat our food, remember, carbohydrates, our food digestion begins in the mouth. And salivary amylase, which is an enzyme that in your saliva that breaks down carbohydrates into simple sugars. And so when that happens, the bacteria in our mouth love simple sugars, and they feed on these sugars, and they form a byproduct. And that byproduct is acids and also dental plaque. So that's a byproduct of the bacteria, okay? That white sticky stuff that forms on your teeth and your gums. And if it's not brushed away in a timely manner, what happens is it forms cavities, but it can form and contribute to inflammation. And your gums, when they're bleeding, that's what inflammation looks like. So if you get up in the morning and you floss and brush your teeth, and we always like to say this as in the dental office, there's pink in the sink, you have inflammation. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
You're not supposed to have that. Okay. If you were to wake up and you rub your eyes and they start to bleed, you'd think there's a problem, right? Well, if you have pink in the sink,
Right.
that's a problem. So then what does the body do? Well, the body thinks that this is an injury. So it responds to that injury and it sends cytokines and white blood cells. And over time, we continue to consume carbohydrates and they continue to be digested by the bacteria in our mouth. And there's more and more inflammation. So then the cytokines become elevated. And this inflammation, along with the bacteria, its toxins, and those pro-inflammatory cytokines, they disrupt the insulin pathways. Well, we just talked about when insulin pathways are disrupted, insulin can't do its job. So there's an increase of blood sugar because insulin is not able to get that glucose into the cell to utilize for energy. So blood sugar then increases. And then it's on this path again to where you are more susceptible to diabetes. If you don't have diabetes, you're more than likely going to get it. If you have diabetes, then it's going to get worse. So it's a vicious cycle. So periodontal disease and diabetes is a two-way street. So if you have diabetes, you're more than likely have periodontal disease. And if you haven't been diagnosed with that, you haven't been diagnosed just yet. And if you have periodontal disease and you haven't been diagnosed with diabetes, it's only a matter of time. You just haven't been diagnosed yet.
Right. So that slide right there is the one that you're really trying to hit on. Is that right?
Yep, exactly. And the reason I also say this is over 38 million adults in the United States have some form of periodontal disease. And most of them don't even know it. Most of them have no idea. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. So
Yeah.
actually 38 million adults have diabetes in the United States and don't even know it. 64 million have periodontal disease and they're not aware of it. So that goes hand in hand. Both of those things go hand in hand. All right.
That's crazy. So everything is really beginning in the mouth, and you're talking about eating those, going back to the food that we eat and everything that plays out. Well, what's happened? Because here's the thing that's huge, because most people don't know something big happened in 1963, besides the fact that we lost a president. Back in 1963, one of the things that happened was Campbell and J.R. Reynolds tobacco company bought out Hawaiian Punch. That was the first time that a food company would buy tobacco company is going to buy a food company. Well, they saw the writing on the wall. You can see down there in the bottom corner. We know the Surgeon General got here and got involved in all this. Well, here's the thing. That was the first time that it happened. But eventually, what we find out is that, guess what? all of the food companies are going to go through this process. They're going to get bought out by all the tobacco companies. So you can sit here and look at, there's 11 different major companies right here that all own all of these food companies. Well, what the heck? What were they about? What happened? What did they do? Well, they made all of the food incredibly hyper palatable. We crave it. We want it. We can't get enough of it. Well, what did they do? They took the fiber out of the food. Basically, today we eat MREs. You can call it whatever you want, but it's meals ready to eat that has been packaged up and it tastes really good because it's loaded up with sugar and it's had the fiber taken out so they don't rot on the shelf anymore. So bread comes packaged in fiber in nature, but that wheat germ is gone. All right. Rice comes packaged in fiber. Apples come packaged in an incredibly powerful fiber called pectin. We know that. But we strip it off and we give it to our kids as sugar water. That's all it is. Even in nature, God created this world in an amazing way, and that is everything that would spike our blood glucose levels come packaged in fiber. Even sugar itself comes packaged in fiber. So here's the thing. I don't know about you. Those of y'all that are here, y'all are watching, y'all add to the comments, how many meals a day were you taught to eat? Type it in the comment section below. How many meals were you taught to eat? Was it 3? Was it 6? How many meals were you taught to eat? And for most of it, it usually is in some form of that 3 or 6. And we had 3 meals, maybe 2 healthy snacks. Maybe we had 6 small meals during the course of the day. So we slept all night long, right? We survived the night. How on earth was it that we survived all night long without food? Oh my goodness. I mean, come on, folks. Look, so we slept all night long without food. We got up in the morning and we immediately went down. We just had to eat. We got that heart-healthy meal. We wound up getting Cheerios. We got muffins. We got oatmeal. And we got our milkshake coffee. And that caused our blood sugar to spike because those simple carbohydrates, as Dr. G explained, convert to sugar in the mouth, into glucose. So the insulin is trying to keep that under control because that's what the anabolic hormone does. Middle of the morning, you start to crash, and so you go grab yourself a low-fat granola bar because that's healthy. And then at lunchtime, you go to Costco to run some errands, and you go grab that hot dog meal, and what do you get? Well, you're going to make sure you get the Diet Coke because you're all worried about the hot dog when you're not even thinking about what the bun is doing to your blood sugar. Then later in the afternoon, maybe you're hoping that when that crash comes and you get tired, man, I'm going to look for a stale donut in the workroom, or I'm going to get some pretzels because, of course, that's better. And then when you're getting ready to go home, your partner calls you up and said, hey, I don't have anything planned for dinner for me and the kids. Can you pick something up? Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't want to go to McDonald's because I don't want to give the kids all that bad food. So you choose to go to Chick-fil-A, or maybe you go to Cane's and you get chicken because chicken's healthy. And then you pat yourself on the back. You ate this whole great thing because you ate healthy all day, right? And you reward yourself with a bowl of ice cream. If that's your day, type yes in the comments. If that sounds familiar at all to you, type yes down in the comments. Because I suspect if you're a little bit like me, Dr. G, was that you?
That was me.
Yeah.
Although I ate about every 2 to 3 hours in a 12 to 16 hour period. So it was even worse. That was worse than that.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, ultimately, what we don't get taught is the fact those carbohydrates cause the biggest insulin spike. All right. When we look at the chart right here, we see insulin is an anabolic hormone, and those carbohydrates cause the biggest spike. Protein and healthy fats do the least amount. All right. That keeps lower. It takes longer to the body to digest, and we don't have the amount of sugars that are being processed that are ultimately leading to all that bacteria and stuff going on in our bodies. So what is it that we're doing? All right, look at the very top of this. We start with a high carb diet. Let's be honest, folks. Look at the picture. When you go to McDonald's, what's the first thing that you're going to grab when you get that drive-through package?
I know what I grab.
I know what I grab too. Type it in the whole bottom. Those of y'all that are watching, what is it that you get? You're going to get the fries. Of course, you're going to get the fries. And if you got the milkshake, I know what Dr. G is going to do with that. You're going to dip it in your milkshake.
Yep, that's what I'm going to
do. That's it.
That's
so
exactly
so we eat a high carb diet. The insulin gets released from the pancreas because that's what it does. All right. But when we have so much in our bodies, the cells resist too much insulin. Then the sugar is stored in our fat cells and released in the blood. And because there is that whole jam up of all this energy, it can't get processed. We're not getting the sugar into our muscles. We start to feel tired and hungry, and the cycle returns all over again. So what is it that we can do? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get right into the solution now, folks. So this is what you've been waiting for, is to jump right in, Amanda. Exactly, eating the fries. So what do? We eat in a healthy order. Now I'm going to jump back on here. So why is this important? All right, forget your football rivalries. UCLA Health. Eat in a certain order. Helps to control blood glucose levels. Look down in the bottom section. You see that the Ohio State. Now, forget that football rivalry. I know now we're talking about national championships, but here's the thing that research says right here. Eat vegetables and protein first and carbs last through meal sequencing. So your grandparents were right all along. Eat your veggies first. Eat your veggies first. That changes everything, folks. And the CDC says what? Fiber is the carb that helps you manage diabetes because it doesn't turn to glucose. It turns into a gel that helps to slow down your digestion and to get you healthy. So in the end, this is important, folks, right here. I want you to look at this really carefully. 95% of Americans don't get enough fiber. But if you'll remember, 93% of Americans aren't metabolically healthy. I want that to sink in for a second. This is so important. This is very well within the margin of error. We're not metabolically healthy and we don't get enough fiber. And we can look at the guidelines and we need to understand the power of this. And we're about to really unpack this. All right. How much fiber do you need? Women under 50 years of age, 25 grams. Women over 51, 21 grams. Men under 50 years of age, 38 grams. And men over 51, 30 grams. I cannot eat 8 cups of broccoli a day. Dr. G, how about you?
No, I like broccoli, but I don't like it that much.
Man, there's just no stinking way that I could even hope to.
Exactly. And the other thing about fiber is it's been stripped of our food. So it's really hard to get that many grams of fiber and each day. I mean, without being clever about it, basically. It's hard. It's very hard.
Exactly. But we need it. And we've got to find a way to get it because it makes all the difference in the world. So here's what I want you to think about. If you're trying to control that blood sugar response and improve insulin sensitivity, and we start with the veggies first, proteins and fats, and we leave carbs to the end of the meal. That's as simple as it gets. But it's not the only way. One of the things we find incredibly powerful is to eat that way and to know what's happening in our bodies. And that's part of the education. So when we eat that food, we eat fiber, proteins, and fats. We eat until we're full. And we know we're full because our body makes, wait, what is that down there? Wait, GLP-1. Holy cow. We talked about GLP-1, didn't we, Dr. G?
We did. We talked about a GLP-1 agonist. A little different.
Ah, yeah.
And our bodies can make our own GLP-1.
Bam, exactly. Folks, you don't have a GLP-1 deficiency. What we have is our bodies we're not eating correctly, so we're not making it the way that it's supposed to, because what should be happening is our bodies, when we eat correctly, are making that GLP-1. Avocados are a great source of that fiber and fats. Absolutely, Amanda. What that's going to do is that incretin action signals to the brain that you're full. And that's what we want to do. But here's the other thing. We move to, rather than eating all those meals all day, we just go to eating 2 meals a day. Now, that seems a little bit more doable than just saying, oh, we're not going to eat so much anymore. And what we find in the research is that when we do 2 meals a day, when we go to that idea of intermittent fasting, we will improve our insulin sensitivity when we do intermittent fasting. We see in this chart how the insulin levels drop farther than they do when it comes to just simply doing calorie counting, because our bodies are not a calculator, folks. They're looking for nutrition, and that's what we're trying to do. So when we do intermittent fasting, we look over here. Number 1, 16 and 8 is what I teach when I teach nutrition. All right. We want to eat 2 meals within an 8-hour period. And we just simply go and we time out and say, hey, for 16 hours, we're not going to eat. You survived how many nights of sleep without eating? You can do this. And that's going to move you from metabolic inflexibility to metabolic flexibility. You go from being a sugar burner to a fat burner. That decreases the inflammation, decreases the blood glucose, decreases blood pressure, increases that human growth hormone, right? Your cells in your body, and increases insulin sensitivity, and it gives your pancreas a break.
Yep.
And it needs that, right?
Yep.
But
Yes.
it can be a challenge, right? And that's part of what we're talking about today. Those dietary lifestyles can be a challenge, right, Dr. G?
Yes, but you explained it very well. So how do we bridge this gap? Well, with dietary and lifestyle, basically intermittent fasting. And keep in mind, intermittent fasting doesn't mean eating less. We're going to eat to satiety. We're going to eat to we're full. It just means eating less often. You're not eating every 2 to 3 hours. That 2 to 3 hours to keep your metabolism up? No, that's not working. So changing a lifestyle and changing your diet with the food sequencing, and those two things are doable. I found them to be a little challenging. So with these nutraceuticals we're going to talk about next, very helpful, very doable, very easy. Allows your body to work at the cellular level. And so what is the solution? Well, it's the Feel Great system. And this solution has 5 patents. There's clinical studies and third-party validation. It's safe, it's natural. There's a 90-day money-back guarantee. It's HSA and FSA approved. That's big. So your insurance can pay for this. It turns out being cost neutral because you're no longer eating snacks, for one thing. No snacking, because that's your body doesn't know if it's a snack or if it's a meal. It just it doesn't know, and it doesn't count calories because it's not a calculator. So when you are reducing the food consumption, you are not paying for all those milkshake coffees and all those snacks. So it becomes cost neutral. Also, you're reducing your copays because it can help reduce the amount of medication, if not eliminate it. Okay.
Right. Because people don't realize the cost of it. I mean, it's like, going through the average U.S. American spends around $900 a month on that premium that you pay for insurance, plus all of the medications, all of the things, the copays and everything. That's a lot. And then add on to that, as I sit there and you look at the numbers, that the average U.S. American, we actually did a presentation where a young man in the audience was saying, how much do you spend on a cup of coffee? He immediately was $7 because he bought coffee every day. And I asked, how much do you spend on a breakfast at McDonald's? He said $8. It was like, well, there's 15 right there.
And that was every day.
Every single day. And the average, and that's not including any of the snacks. So if we just go $20 a day for snacks, averaging out 30 days in a month, that is $600 a month. That's crazy how much we're spending.
And I know it says 50 plus countries, but I believe it's in over 60 now.
Yeah.
We'll have to update that slide. But do you want to go ahead and explain how do we use them? How do we do this?
Well, if you look at the diagram right down here, I'm going to pop this up real quick so we can take a look. So I talked about there, if you see breakfast, lunch, and dinner, this fits into everything that I just talked about. So we're skipping breakfast. We're delaying breakfast, as Dr. G likes to say. And so we're drinking the tea, all right, in essence. Then we're having 2 meals a day. And we're drinking the Unimate. That's increasing our body's natural GLP-1, so those food cravings. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about the details of that. And then the fiber, that's the balance. We take that right before our largest meal during the day. And that's making sure to take care of our blood sugar spikes, helping to make sure if you're dealing with the triglycerides, that's lowering those triglyceride levels, increasing your body's HDL. But more than anything is controlling those blood glucose spikes, that if you're diabetic or you're dealing with heart disease, you're dealing with those things. That is a huge part of this. Now, Dr. G, would you kind of unpack a little bit more about Unimate?
Certainly, yes. So Unimate, what is it? It is from the yerba mate leaf from Argentina and Brazil, and it is a native plant of South America, and it's been consumed for hundreds of years. It is the nectar of the gods, so to speak. And one of the things with our Unimate is it undergoes a 5-step purification process. It's hand-picked, fire roasted. It is concentrated, extracted, concentrated, and then it undergoes a purification process and purified. So you're getting the purest form of the yerba mate. And with that, you're getting, there's chlorogenic acid, which is a polyphenol, along with ferulic acid that is in there. And The chlorogenic acid is 75 times the amount of any chlorogenic acid on the planet. Now, so basically, the chlorogenic acid that it can be found in other things in nature. It can be found in some fruits and vegetables. It can be found in coffee and green tea. So basically, the chlorogenic acid, like in a cup of coffee, what that means is like there's compared to the Shunamate, it's 10 times the amount on a premium cup of coffee, if you will. Chlorogenic acid is important because it helps stimulate what we were talking about before, GLP-1 production. So what it's doing is when you're fasting, it's also an appetite suppressant. So it is extending your fast. It's giving your pancreas a break. It's allowing your own GLP-1 to burn your own fat for fuel. It's increased up to 70%, and it helps to increase your mental clarity and improve your mood. It also helps to reduce your blood pressure, and it also is a bronchodilator. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. One other thing that Unamate has in it is theobromine. Now, theobromine is also found in chocolate, dark chocolate, and it makes you feel good. It improves your mood, and it also helps to increase your mental acuity and clarity. But one of the things that people don't realize with theobromine, it is a natural remineralizer of your tooth enamel. So it allows for remineralization of your tooth enamel. So with strong teeth, then you help to fight off cavities. So and this is all without side effects. And I know people are concerned today with fluoride and the side effects. Well, theobromine gives the same remineralization that fluoride does, but without side effects. Okay, so the other component is I talked about ferulic acid, and there's the mate saponins, which help with fat metabolism.
Gotcha. Absolutely. So the other part of this is the system is balanced. Now, I always love this one. I love both of them. They're both awesome. But for me, the impact for my health with balance was so incredible because it was getting that fiber and not realizing that with fiber, this is a matrix of fiber. So it's 7 different soluble, insoluble fibers. And that fiber blend and the vitamins that go along with it are pretty incredible. And now some people look at those in different ways and try to pick those apart. But these are not fibers that come together typically in any one food. So getting a matrix of these is really an important part of why this creates this unique gel that handles so many of the foods that we eat. And even though you don't get, 8 cups of fiber in here, you are getting, because of that matrix, a more intensive blend of fibers. The thing that I've been fascinated by is how all of these things play out. So as I said, when you eat vegetables first and when you drink this first, it creates that gel that coats your gut, that brings that healing, make sure that your gut microbiome is getting what it needs to help lower that postprandial glucose pressure or postprandial glucose levels. I mean, that's even if you're eating a pizza or a hamburger, any of the junk food, you want to make sure you have the balance. Now, we want you to eat right, but it's also understanding some of these other things, like calcium carbonate is in here, which is a natural antacid. Or here's one that'll blow you away. And those of you that are dealing with sleep apnea, I was sitting here and I thought for the longest time, Dr. G, Unamate was what helps with that. And in fact, what I was digging in today, that B1 thiamine that is in this multivitamin is what your body needs to help with sleep apnea and that snoring. Helps you to get a better night's sleep. Did you know that, Dr. G?
No, I did not. I knew there was a vitamin
Yes.
B complex in this, along with other vitamins. It's a multivitamin supplement. I did not know specifically that. So, but
No,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was digging into that today. That B1 is that key thiamine. That's a B vitamin. It has 2 different names.
So one of the things you mentioned pizza, and some people are probably going, well, I thought you were talking about diet. I thought, so when we say diet doesn't mean the restriction. When people think of diet, it means restriction, or that's what they think about. We're not talking about that. We're talking about food freedom, and we don't eat pizza every day. We don't.
Sure would be nice though.
It would be great. I mean, but you know what? Before my whole insight about what nutrition was about and how this works, I used to eat that all the time. I used to eat that kind of food all the time. And I was sick and I didn't realize why. So we're talking about food freedom. We're talking about how this allows your body to work at the cellular level to help metabolize your food so that your body knows what to do with it. And this is leading to metabolic flexibility. So when you go from being metabolically inflexible to metabolic flexibility, what you're doing is you're utilizing two energy sources. Number one, glucose, but then you're also able to switch to fat burning mode. And when you're switching to fat burning mode, then what happens is you're burning your ketones and you're literally eating your love handles for breakfast. You're burning your own fat for fuel. You're giving your pancreas a break. Your insulin levels are going to come down. Therefore, your blood glucose is going to stabilize. And then over time, you're going to notice things happen that you're going to reduce that inflammation. You're going to reduce your chronic pain. And then as time goes on even further, you may even, like I did, I reversed my type 2 diabetes. I no longer take medication for that. I no longer have hypertension. So, and I no longer have high blood pressure, and I don't take medication for that either. So
Right. So folks, y'all have come in, you've listened to all this, and you may have been invited here by me or Dr. G or somebody else, and maybe you're interested in the Feel Great system and what we've been talking about today. That's what we are here for. And Dr. G and I coach on this, and so do many others. And if you were invited by somebody to be a part of this call, or they shared this link with you, the first thing that I want to say is please talk to that person right out of the gate. Now, if you were invited here by us, please reach out to us. Or if you just stumbled upon us, then you're going to find our links in the bios on Facebook, on YouTube. And if you know us, get our phone number and call us and text us, because that's what we're here for, is to help you on that journey. But I also want to sit there and put it out to you. Do you have any questions? If you sat through, we've got a few minutes before the top of the hour. We want to respect your time. You've given us this time. We want to respect that time. So this has been an hour, and this will be saved, and it'll be available on YouTube. It'll be here on Facebook for 30 days as a live, but then it's going to be indefinitely over on YouTube. So you can get to that link if you miss something, you want to go back and check this out, or if you have a family or a friend you want to share this information with. I think that's really important. So if you've got any questions, put them in the comment section below. We certainly would love to hear them. Dr. G and I know during the course of a week, there are some questions that we get from clients of ours that tend to pop up. So as people may be thinking about something that they may have had, what's a question that you've gotten this last week that has come up in your coaching?
I get a question. I get the question a lot. Well, I'm already taking medication. Can I utilize the system with this? And the question, the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. But you have to have an end goal. And I want you to also, because I am a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. I'm a dentist. I'm not your dentist. Whatever you decide you need to talk to and let your doctor know, because the end game is to get off your medication. And you need to let them know that this is what you're working towards. So yes, you can start this while being on your medication, but keep in mind that these nutraceuticals, you're going to start to notice a decrease in blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure and you're taking medication, then you're going to notice it's probably going to stabilize and normalize. And it's because of the Feel Great system. So you want to be aware of that. And that's why you need to talk to your healthcare provider to let them know what you're doing. Just so that, like I said, the end game, let's get off those medications.
Right. Well, and I'll tell you one of the things that I have, and I think Charlene might be available. We may jump on and say hello and goodbye again here in a second. But one of the questions that I've had lately, when people start the product, that oftentimes there's changes that happen in your body. And it seems as though many times people's first response has been, with many of my clients, is, oh, it's the product that's causing the problem.
Yeah.
When what really is, talk to us, talk to your doctor, because these products do not have side effects. What's happening is your body is healing at a cellular and metabolic level, and maybe disrupting some things because your body is now healing along this journey. And what's happening, we've got to manage and take care of. And because this is all food, this is the key part of this, is understanding this is food. It's actually in the provider's digital reference as well. Now I'm going to see if, thought I was going to bring Charlene on.
I thought I saw her.
I'm going to try to bring her on. There she is.
She is. Yay!
Hi, everyone. Hi, Facebook family.
Yeah, for 15 seconds, you got it, Charlene.
My name is Charlene. I'm a community pharmacist. And this is the easiest, simplest protocol that everyone can do and be on.
Right.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. Well, with that, folks, Charlene, thank you for making it in. We got, like I said, the last little bit. We've come to the end of our time. So thank y'all for being here. Charlene, Dr. G, and as we plan again for the future, we will be back again. But if you were invited here by any one of us or somebody else, please get back with them. Reach out to us if you've got questions about the protocol. We are here for you, and we want you to feel great and to help you make life better. So as I say every time, go get the day, make it golden. Thank y'all both for being on here tonight and all of you that joined in.
Good night.